Today we have ML Mercedes in our garage with the complaint of stiff wheel. We're going to show you what we found out. I just wanted to show you how to test the valve on the hydraulic rack itself. So we're at the driver's side, we remove the wheel. This is the valve of the hydraulic rack, which is controlling the pressure to the rack itself. When the car is stationary, this valve should get permanent power and ground, and we're going to test that. When the car accelerates to certain speed, this power and ground should be removed so the wheel to get stiffer. So now I'm going to start the car and going to test the supply to this valve. Okay, so I'm going to start the engine, and the wheel is really stiff right now. Doesn't matter, only one wheel is touching the ground. So right now the valve for the hydraulic rack should have permanent power and ground, and my colleague already hooked the test light to a my colleague already attached the test light to battery positive, and we should find the ground of this plug. We don't have any ground on this plug, neither on one of the pins. Now we're going to check for a power. We're going to hook up the test light to a ground now and going to check for a power. Okay, test light hooked to a ground, and now we should check for a supply, and once again there is no supply on either of the two pins. So for sure we have problem with the wiring to this valve on the hydraulic rack. Now we're going to show you how to test this valve. It's really easy. So we're going to put a ground and supply externally from this battery to the valve itself, and when we hook up the power to the valve, the steering wheel should get much more softer than now. Okay, right now the valve is attached to the supply, and the wheel is much more softer than before. Okay, my colleague removed it, and the wheel is getting stiffer. We are just providing a supply and a ground to the valve itself, which is regulating the pressure to the hydraulic rack itself. This is how we determine that the valve is working properly. But right now we have some wiring problem, and we saw the car has some collision on the front left side, and now we're going to remove the wheel cover and going to check for any wire damage there. Okay, so this mark is getting interesting than I was expecting. So I removed the dust cover. Let me settle down. I removed the dust cover, and I was expecting to find some broken wire, but interesting fact, everything is okay. So the multi-plug from the valve on the hydraulic rack is going, it is this is the plug for the valve, and is it focused? And it goes to here. I pierced the cables here, and after that goes to the plug directly to the ABS module. This is the two cables that are going to the valve itself. I check for continuity from here to the plug, and the cables are perfect. There is no problems with the cable for sure. So of course the next step, I check the main grounds and supply wires to the ABS module, and once again everything checks okay. So before condemning the ABS module, I'm going to hook up the start diagnosis, the dealership to on the mark, and going to try to find something else. Not going to check for CAN signal, communication signal, because for sure I don't have ABS light. I have communication with the module, so for sure there is communication going through the ABS module and going back. Okay guys, I hooked up the diagnosis. I started the engine because the battery was getting low. So sorry about the language, I'm not sure why it go in Bulgarian, but before a few months it was on English. Not sure how I changed it, but doesn't matter. So ESP, electric stability program, I'm going to try to translate you. Not my best quality, but will do my best. Error codes, and we have error code for electric valve, the valve that we are checking, which is positioned on the hydraulic rack. So let's see what info we're going to get from this. Possible reasons for fault, the electric valve itself, and now I am rotating the wheel and it's measuring some kind of amperage there. It's seeing that it's integrated. So the engine is running. This is the specification. When F3 is pressed, F3 is when F3 means the wheel should be soft. F4 means the wheel should be stiff. This is like sitting on place, and this is when we are moving on higher speed. So I'm going to hit F3, and this should make the wheel softer. Like you can see the amperage, but still the wheel is not soft. Let's try 4, and some communication problem. Is the activation okay? Actually not. And here we have some instructions. We need to disconnect the main plug of the IBS module, the ESP, and check for resistance between the pins that I show you down there. We should have between 5 and 20 ohms of resistance, which I'm pretty sure we're going to get, because when we put directly power and ground to the valve, the wheel is getting much more softer. But doesn't matter. Actually, I don't need to test it because I don't get any power and ground to this sensor. So even if it's in the specs, if even it's not in the specs, we should have power and ground there. And some suggestions: we should check for loose connections on the plugs and other stuff. But I already checked directly on the IBS module that we don't have power and ground on the pins. So for sure we don't have loose connections. So we changed the valve on the hydraulic rack, and the wheel is fixed. The wheel is soft once again. Not sure why this happened, but don't get the logic of the IBS module. I was expecting the module is to be faulty, but it turns out is to be the valve. From the dealership program, there was specification to measure the resistance of the valve. So I'm going to show you the old valve, what resistance we are getting. 8-9 ohms of resistance, and the specification was 5 to 20 ohms of resistance. So this valve to be okay. When I provide power and ground to the valve, the wheel is getting softer, the steering wheel. So this valve should work. Why the IBS module doesn't like it? Why the IBS module doesn't provide power and ground to this sensor? I can tell you, I can give you an answer for that. Not sure why. But we put a second hand valve just for the test, and it turns out that this was the problem. The interesting fact is because when we put the valve and I saw the wheel that gets softer, we once again took the test light and checked for power and ground, and every time we hooked up the test light to the power wire, which is this brown and white wire, the wheel was getting stiffer, and every time I was needed to turn off the car and start it again so the wheel to get softer once again. I guess it's very delicate circuit, and the ABS module is measuring the amp draw, which is going to the valve like we saw on the diagnostic tool. In stationary, this valve should draw between 900 and 1000 milliamps, and when you drive on higher speeds it should be close to 0 amps. And when we put here a test light, it draws 250 more milliamps. I guess that's why it's interrupting the signal for the valve. But still, I don't know why the ABS module doesn't like the old valve. Like I told you guys, when we put power and ground, the wheel is getting softer and we have a good resistance. When I hook up the diagnostic tool, every time I go inside the ABS module, there is briefly flickering of the test light on every wire while I'm connecting to the module itself. So probably this is kind of lead how to test the circuit, but still not sure why this this valve is failed. Probably I was needed to hook up the scope and watch it in live data, but yeah, we are kind of on a rush. So this was the problem with this car. Most of the time with these valves you should have permanent supply and a ground when the car is started and it is stand still. I guess Mercedes decided to do this type of valves differently, the logistic of the module differently than the other cars. Okay guys, one more time, I found the English version of the program how to open it. So file codes, some stored code for the previous valve that was installed. I'm going to delete them. And after that, let's check the actual values. No, it was not here. PML Speed Sensitive Power, power steering. F2. Okay, so right now the sensor is fitted. Right now the sensor is drawing 100 milliamps, and when it's operational, when it's operational, the valve, it should draw between 900 and 1.1 thousand milliamps. So I'm going to hit F3, and like you can see right now it's drawing 1000 milliamps, and when we will press F4 it should draw close to 0, or between 0 and 200 milliamps. So we are perfectly in spec. Actually before that it was reading around 600 milliamps now, if I remember right. So probably that was maybe a lead to the problem. I didn't saw that before. Just wanted to show you the specs, what should read on active and not operational. So once again, keep in mind, when you put a test light here, you can trick the ABS module, because you're going to draw 250 milliamps from the test light. Okay guys, once again, thanks for watching.